Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is back for his monthly chat with us today, Thursday, January 12th, 2023. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying good morning to all of you. Welcome to our monthly Breakfast with Tiffany live video podcast with Congressman Tom Tiffany to discuss all the things going on in the 7th Congressional District, as well as Washington, D.C. If you have a question for Congressman Tiffany, please feel free to let us know in the comments during the live show. Tom, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am good, Ben. Happy New Year to you and to all of your listeners/viewers.
You know, there was something big that kind of came up since the last time you were on. We do these monthly. So you're on the second Thursday, like always, in December. But something big happened from that last show to this one. So I'm going to start off right away with that. How was your birthday?
Oh, it was a great birthday. Christmas, the holidays was terrific. I hope everybody else's was. Kids were home, and we really had a great time getting together with them. And
What'd you get for your birthday?
spending time with family. Birthday was terrific.
What did you get for your birthday? Can you tell us?
I'm wearing it.
Oh, a tie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Aw.
Chris got me a tie, and proudly wearing it. She has good
Attaboy.
taste.
Attaboy. You must have gotten in trouble or something. Like, well, okay, I better wear it at a show so she can see it.
We're not going to talk about
Okay.
that.
All right, I'll cross that off my topics to discuss today. So obviously
Hey,
the big
by the way, congratulations to DrydenWire. I saw you did that report on your statistics.
yeah.
What is it like? 5 million page
Yeah,
views?
for the fourth consecutive year. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
You are the man.
Would you stop it? I mean, keep going, but stop.
Yeah. No, seriously, congratulations. You took your vision and you've turned it into a successful media enterprise, and congratulations to you. And I hope you have a terrific 2023.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As long as you keep coming on for these shows, our numbers will keep staying high. So I have a couple things written down. Obviously, I want to talk about the House speakership thing here, and I even put in all capital letters, Kevin McCarthy. Because even on our Tuesday show with Fitzy, I even referenced Mike McCarthy, and it's keep in my head. So I wanted to talk to you about like the concessions. Was that good and bad, and some of your takeaways and what's next? But first, because we always like to do things a little bit different here, I want to talk to you about your experience going through it. So this was over a several-day period, and I was watching it. You know, it was not like just sitting and staring at the screen and watching it, but it was on, and every once in a while I'd look up and I'd see like, hey, there's Tom. But then after a while, like I see people really weren't around after like the eighth vote or through that whole process. So walk us through, what was that experience like for you going through this? Because it's clearly a unique situation to begin with, and you happen to be there for all of this.
Yeah, so I mean, just a lot of thoughts in regards to it. First of all, I would say it's interesting the reaction of the people that watch C-SPAN versus the network television show companies, because the network televisions, they always have their commentary, and it's all about the personalities and the conflict and stuff like that. For the people that watch C-SPAN, it was real interesting. They were like, after watching this for a little bit, it actually became pretty interesting because we began to see what this was all about, that there was actually something substantive. It wasn't just about whether you like Kevin McCarthy or not and want to vote for him for speaker. It was this whole underlying rules package is what this was all about. And but this actually started right after the election when we got the majority. Within a week, we were voting to decide who our leadership is. And Kevin McCarthy got the most votes. He had like 188 to 31. And I think we talked about that last month. And 31 of them went to Andy Biggs. I voted for Andy Biggs. And I voted for Andy Biggs specifically because of what we dealt with over the last week. And that was the rules of the House. Because the rules of the House have really been they closed out debate, I think is the simplest way to put it, over the last number of years. And it really concentrated power in a couple people in leadership. That's not how the House of Representatives is supposed to work. It is the people's house. And so as I saw us moving in the right direction, and I thought we were going to get to a really good rules package. I agreed to vote for Kevin McCarthy. I actually called him on Christmas Eve and said, I am now satisfied that we will get to the right place here. And but 20 people did not. And kudos to those 20 people, because they kept really pushing and actually got even a couple more changes besides the ones that I was really looking for and I thought were important. And so anyhow, in that group of 20 people, you had two different subsets. One, the group that simply wanted rules changes. They wanted the House of Representatives to run differently. And then you had a small group of 6 who are like, we are not going to vote for Kevin McCarthy. Not now, not ever. And you saw those 6 people in the final vote on the 15th ballot. They all voted present, which is what allowed Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker. And the other 14 of the 20, they chose to vote for him because they said, we've got the rules changes now that we want. But it's really interesting. I mean, it was just, you could see it was just a stalemate after the first vote. And then those negotiations were going on behind the scenes for the people that wanted additional rules changes with the McCarthy team. And steadily they worked their way through the issues. And it ended up including stuff like there'll be a vote on term limits. That's one of the things, for example, Representative Ralph Norman wanted. And there were just a variety of issues like that that ended up getting into the rules package.
Mm. So when I could see you, especially like that first or second vote, and a lot of people that were there, and then after that, not as many people, and I didn't see you much anymore. I don't know if you're like squirreled away in the back or something, or you leave. Like, what do you do during this time? Because again, it was over a series of multiple votes, 15 as you had mentioned, and over a series of days. Do you go back to your office, and can you work during this time? Are you able to work, or no, nobody can really do anything until this is resolved?
Yeah, as we saw that stalemate happening after the first couple of votes, as you said, not as many people on the floor. They would just come and show up when the vote was called. And over 4 days, 15 votes. Yes, I went back to my office oftentimes and was able to make phone calls, get other business done. I mean, we're getting started here in this session. We got a lot to do. So there was plenty to do in that regards. And I was engaged in some of the conversations in regards to the rule changes also with, for example, I belong to the Freedom Caucus. Our chairman is Scott Perry from Pennsylvania. Talked to Scott a couple times as well as other people about what was coming down the pike.
Sure. And one more thing on this, then I want to circle back to what you had said about what you were looking for in the rule changes, and then kind of looking at like what's next and what has been happening now since this has happened. But oh yeah, and by the way, C-SPAN, no kidding. I was watching Fox News for like half of it, and then I switched over to CNN for half of it, and then it was another, I don't remember the other channel, and then it was the second day I was just watching C-SPAN only. Yeah, whoever does that, like no kidding, they did a great job. I haven't watched C-SPAN in a while, but I think I'm going to start watching that a little bit more. That was really well done. So I hear a lot, though, on those shows, the CNNs, the Fox, the other ones, they say there's a lot of people, that are behind the scenes that are working hey, you voted for this person, whomever that was. Would you consider voting with this other person? And according to them, which don't know if that's accurate, there was a lot of those discussions. Were you a part of those discussions, or is this hey, I'm voting for, and that's it?
Yeah, I was certainly part of some of those discussions, but once I decided to vote for Kevin McCarthy, I chose to stick with him. I would say there was a point in about, midpoint of the votes, probably 7th, 8th vote, you're beginning to wonder, okay, is he going to be able to get there? Because, he was stuck at 201, right? There were multiple votes where he was stuck at 201, and you're just kind of going, okay, are we going to end up with a stalemate here? And do we need to move on? And of course, that never happened. And then once we got to the 4th day, it really, things began to break loose.
Yeah. So you had mentioned about you went with Kevin McCarthy, you were satisfied with XYZ. What is XYZ? What is the one or two, or maybe there was just one thing that, as long as this is going to happen, then I'm fine. What was that? What was the concession? What was the thing, the House rules or whatever it is that you wanted done that needed to be on there for me to vote for someone?
Couple things. One, more conservatives on what we call the A committees. The A committees are like Energy and Commerce, Appropriations, those committees. There was an agreement to get more conservatives. I believe conservatives were underrepresented on some of those A committees, and there was an agreement struck on that, and that did happen. Second of all, 72 hours notice on bills. We've seen so many bills over the last few years. They get dumped on the floor, and we get 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours to review bills that sometimes are 1,000 pages long. That is not do justice to the legislation that is coming before us. And so now it's 72 hours to be able to review those bills. Bills becoming Christmas trees. So you have an underlying bill, and then somebody adds an amendment here, an amendment there, and pretty soon you got the Christmas tree, and the ornaments
Oh,
that are on that Christmas tree have nothing to do with the underlying Christmas tree. And so there's a provision in there in regards to germaneness that a amendment needs to be germane to the underlying bill. So that was really important. And the other thing is to have an open rules debate. And while that's kind of arcane, I think I can explain it quite simply. If you look at the last few years, Nancy Pelosi always had closed rules on the floor. What that meant is we could not offer, no one could offer amendments on the floor. And we used to do that all the time in the legislature, and I've never been understood why that shouldn't be that way out here. And clearly, Speaker Pelosi, she wanted her bill that came out of her office to pass exactly as it was, and she didn't want to have to go through the amendment process. We now have an open amendment process where anyone can offer amendments from the floor. Now, this is going to extend the amount of time that it's going to take to get bills through. But I believe that's how it should work. And by the way, Ben, for those people interested in bipartisanship, this helps that, because this doesn't help just us Republicans that are in the majority. This goes for Democrats also. All 435 members now, they get to, if they choose to participate, they get to use the open amendment process on the floor. They can offer amendments, any of the 435. This is good for I believe, for both Republicans and Democrats. But the most important thing is it makes the process more open, transparent, and accountable to the American people.
speaking of that, watching all of this, and people were able to watch all of this. Someone had called and asked me if I was watching any of it. I said, "Well, it's on." And they said, "Boy, this is just, it's a mess, and it's a bad look for everyone. This is bad for our country." And yeah, I don't know. I didn't agree. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's certainly unique. I just think it is what it is. Do you think that just this whole thing and having it on C-SPAN and everywhere else and 15 votes, did that hurt our country? Is that a bad thing? Or like, in 2 weeks, no one's really going to be talking about this anymore. It just happened to be like not a lot else going on. Therefore, that's what everybody's talking about. What was your takeaway about that whole experience to kind of wrap it up on that part? Was this good for the country to go through this process and for the country to be able to see a lot of the process?
Oh, this is really good. And it goes to transparency where the public gets to see what happens. Remember, this is something that's largely been pro forma over the last few decades.
I'm sorry. What is pro? I don't know what that means. You always say stuff I don't know what you mean.
What I mean there is that the decision's already made when the Congress has went to the House of Representatives, has went to the floor for their first vote in regards to Speaker. It's already a done deal. So it's not always been that way. Back in 1923, there was like 8 or 9 votes that it took to get Speaker. If you go back to the 1800s, they oftentimes had multiple votes before they would figure out who the Speaker is going to be. I think it was a terrific debate to have, and especially if you're watching C-SPAN, it was a really good civics lesson, because you see that this isn't just always cut and dried, and that there is a process that this can go through if we choose to do that. And I think this was really healthy for our democracy to go through this. in particular because it's going to make the House of Representatives more transparent than it's been over the last number of years.
So it's been almost a week now that this has been, that there was a conclusion. There is a speaker. What has happened in the last week? Anything yet? Or is it, well, no, I mean, that's the first part. And then now it's going to like back to normal. Things will take time. Has anything already started? Have you seen a change now? And is there anything happening since this happened already? Like everyone's just waiting for, like, we're ready to go. Just someone pick a speaker so we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, we've already been passing bills this week, and when I get done with the show here, I'm going to be headed for the floor to vote on a couple other things. And we already passed a bill to defund the 87,000 additional IRS agents that the previous Congress and President Biden signed into law. We voted to defund them. That's been done. We've created 2 select committees, one in regards to Communist China. Representative Gallagher from Green Bay is going to head up that committee to see the influence of Communist China in America. I think it's a very timely thing, and it was passed on a bipartisan basis. In fact, there's 65 people that voted against it, and I still don't understand why they voted against it. And then, but we also set up a commission, actually it's a subcommittee of the judiciary to review the weaponization of our intelligence agencies, FBI, Department of Justice, and the Department of Homeland Security, where they've been suppressing people's First Amendment rights to free speech. All you got to do is follow. If you follow the Twitter files story at this point and what's going on there, where people's speech has been suppressed by the FBI and others, it is time that we have a full review and accounting on that. And there is a weaponization committee that's been set up, and that'll be starting up here real soon.
When those are together, and I just always assume that anytime there is a bill that comes up, Republicans like it, Democrats hate it, or vice versa. And even if they didn't necessarily have a view, it's like, oh, wait, we're Democrats. So do we like this or we didn't? No, we don't like this. Okay, got it. Or Republicans, again, it's just what it is. Are things like that subcommittee of, which I would just assume that is kind of everyone is on board going, that's not a bad idea. Or is this, no, it's just Republicans?
Yeah, so in the case of China, that was bipartisan. The select committee to review the Communist Chinese government's actions, especially here in America. And that was bipartisan. But I was surprised that 65 people voted against it. Why would you not want to know, especially with the record that Communist China has? It threatens its neighbors in Southeast Asia, like Taiwan. It's using slave labor in Western China, where they've taken the ethnic minority Uyghurs and they basically enslave them. They harvest their organs. We know that there's Confucius Institutes that are funded by the Communist Chinese government that are set up in some of our universities here in America. We saw in the last administration where they had to empty out the Chinese consulate in Houston because they were spying. They steal our intellectual property. They've been doing it for years and decades. We should get to the bottom of that. And so it was bipartisan. I was a little bit surprised not everybody voted for it. In regards to the weaponization of our agencies, I get it that my Democrat colleagues, they believe in bigger government. They believe the federal and all-powerful federal government is going to lead to the best of the human condition. I fundamentally disagree with that. But I got to tell you, I saw what I hope is a glimmer of daylight on this. On the left is the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, came out today and they said that the FBI's actions need to be reviewed. And I hope that's a signal to some of my Democrat colleagues. While they're coming after, people that were called the COVID deniers, some of those doctors that said, hey, there's alternatives to using the jab or getting vaccinated to make sure you're staying healthy. And those people were suppressed. Where President Trump was thrown off from Twitter and other social media outlets. I mean, them coming after the right, our intelligence agencies like the FBI, I hope my colleagues on the Democrat side remember, they can turn their guns on you next. They may come for me first, but they can come for you next. And that's the history when you allow these intelligence agencies unfettered power. And that's what I hope we get to the bottom of with this weaponization committee that will be starting up real soon.
You have a vote in 10 minutes, so we've got about 5 minutes here. I kind of want to circle back to something that you and I have had many conversations about over these shows, mostly last year and the year before, even when you were down in the southern border. With the speaker and now with the House having more Republicans, does that have anything to do with the southern border, or is that is a presidential administration situation? So there's really nothing more or less or anything that we can do in the House?
Oh, we're drafting a bill. We're drafting a bill to secure the border. Remember, this is two separate issues. People, including myself, before I came to Congress, we just talked about it in terms of illegal immigration. There's two different issues here. One, secure the border. And then second, what should immigration levels be into America? And I believe there should be legal immigration into America. But the first thing that needs to be done is to secure the border, because it's completely out of control. And we're seeing all the damage that it's doing to our country. Hospitals, schools overrun with people coming into our country illegally. That penalizes the American people. The fentanyl that's killing, number one killer, ages 18 to 45. And then you have the largest human trafficking operation ever set up in the history of the world by our United States government. It's just wrong. And we will be producing legislation. And I sure hope that there will be some Democrats that come across the aisle and join us in trying to protect America, because our sovereignty it's basically gone at this point.
If I said that it sounds like you're looking at this, I think it's the 118th Congress. I think it's 118th, right? If I were to ask you, put one word on what this next 2 years looks like, and if I said optimistic, would that be an accurate assessment of, or a word to use for the next 2 years versus the last 2 years? What do the next 2 years look like? Give me a word or a sentence.
I'm always optimistic about the future of America. I would say this, though. It is evident the Biden administration does not want to fix the problems that are out there. Energy independence, inflation, and border security. They have no interest in fixing them. And I hate to say that, but that is the case. It is the facts. You can see it out there. I mean, look at the debacle with the Federal Aviation Administration this week.
Oh, I know. I'm laughing, but that's a horrible situation.
There was $1 trillion that were allocated in the infrastructure bill, and they're not spending any of it on fixing or upgrading the computer systems for a federal agency, the Federal Aviation Administration, which does something that's really rather important. And that's fly people all over this country and help fly people all over the world. They are not focused on that. They're focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. They're doing all this stuff that's about unicorns and the Easter Bunny and all the rest, rather than getting serious about what the American people really want to have happen. Reduce inflation. Let's have energy security. And let's get control of the border, and let's have safe cities.
And who do I talk to about my eggs being so expensive anyway? Who am I supposed to be blaming for that? You just let me know, because my wife is like, this is crazy. Anyway, thank you so much. You have listening sessions come up. I put that on our website earlier this week. You're going to be in, I think, the middle or eastern part of your district on Monday, but on Tuesday you're going to be in our area, Northwest Wisconsin. Where are you going to be on Tuesday? Or, well, you can say all of them, but what are those coming up?
Monday, we're going to be over in Vilas, Florence, and Forest counties. And then Tuesday, we're going to be in Ladysmith. Check DrydenWire to see where the locations and times are. We're going to be in Ladysmith Tuesday morning. We're going to be in Amory at noon. We're going to be up in Webster at 3 o'clock. And we're going to be up in Cable at 6 o'clock on Tuesday. It's going to be a full day of listening sessions. Check the DrydenWire. And you'll be able to find that information, or go to the tiffany.house.gov website. We got it for you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. We'll see you next month, huh?
Always good to talk.
Special thank you to Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative, Congressman Tiffany, for joining us for a chat today. And, of course, thank you for watching Congressman Tiffany and I will be back next month. Again, the second Thursday of every month is when we typically do these for our next episode of Breakfast with Tiffany. Until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.
Woo-hoo.